broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
And anyway, that's how I invented fire.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
This whole time, I thought it was like the Earth that invented fire, or God.
I wanted you to think that.
But welcome, everyone, to the official UFC 193 After Show here on AfterBuzz TV on the After Show Network. We are recapping a very, in my opinion, maybe yours too, historic UFC 193.
Oh, yeah.
Records were broken and history was made.
And Jaws as well, no less.
Oh my God, Jaws were dropped to no extent.
That's the rumor.
But I want to know who you guys are first before I introduce myself, because I'm not selfish that way.
It's funny. She is the LL to my Cool J. We are together. LL Cool J. What?
What?
That's actually pretty clever, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. She won't sell on that. I always try. It's just my thing, apparently.
Well, when people look on Google and put LL Cool J, you guys aren't going to show up. So how can people find you?
It's a mesh of us.
Okay.
Actually, if you look for hashtag LL, you'll see me.
That's true, very much so, yeah. JTan716, of course, as always, all over your internet. And you, my dear?
I am Laura Salazar, also known as Lethal Laura.
Lethal Laura. And I am George Hermoza. As the road to 500 Twitter followers begins, I broke 400
really?
Not too long ago. So
400.
Where are you at now?
Like 401.
Boom!
Well, you're very close.
Yeah, so, I mean, I got a ways to go for 500 followers.
Do you actually have that many tweets now, though?
Oh, probably not.
Because well, you're actually doing good there, because you really should conventionally have more tweets than you have followers. But if you got more followers than tweets,
that's pretty impressive.
You're
Yeah.
Just wait till I start tweeting.
Something right, my friend.
But as I mentioned, history was made, records were broken.
Yeah.
Records were broken in terms of the attendance record.
Mm-hmm.
The previous record, 129 UFC, Shields versus St. Pierre, 55,724.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people predicted that this stadium show in Australia was going to break it, and they were correct.
They were.
The official is 56,214.
Mm-hmm. People
to
all
see.
in.
So maybe I want to hear your opinion as well. Essentially, a double main event of nothing but women. So, of course, they always play it back on just how much Dana White didn't want to see women in the UFC. But now you got not only main eventing, co-main eventing, but literally the attendance record was broken.
Yes.
By 2 or 4 women, essentially. What do you think about that, Laura?
I think it was, I just seen the interview with not the interview. They caught him saying that he'll never have women in the UFC.
It was just 3 years ago. It wasn't even like 10 years ago. It was like literally 3 years ago.
And it was actually in TMZ, by the way.
Yeah.
And just to see where we're at now, and I think most of the Australian people bought tickets off just the Ronda Rousey name. Mm-hmm. That's it. I don't think they knew who everybody else was. I think just that name alone sold that show.
She's absolutely a national phenomenon. Fair to say, global now. With the films. I mean, I've heard different things that outside the U.S. she wasn't quite as big as she is here. Certainly, there's no arguing that she's massive here. But then after UFC, which one was it? the Betchkoheya fight in Brazil. Yeah, that was very clearly a big mark in terms of knowing where she is on the global scale of awareness. And I agree, it was Ronda Rousey that drew this thing. But they've got a huge, it was a great card, up and down, some really fun undercard matches, and they're building up some other interesting names there. Jake
Matthews.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jake Matthews, definitely. Yeah, Jake's somebody that I think they're kind of doing the slow build. I almost want to say is like the international Sage Northcutt.
Yeah.
But the fact that this was 2 women defending their titles, and there was a switch. I don't remember exactly. I feel like it was Robbie Lawler's defense.
It was originally Lawler Condit.
Okay, yeah. But then after that injury, Ronda was brought back to defend, and shortly after that, Why am I doing that? Everyone should drink every time I screw up a name here tonight. Even though it's Sunday and you've all got work and school tomorrow. You will get drunk off of me. But the fact that they put in Joanna Jędrzejczyk defending against Valerie Letourneau shortly after the Ronda announcement, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So pretty early on they decided to go with 2 women covering this whole thing, being the main draws.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it originally supposed to be under the co-main event for the Aldo fight, no?
Aldo McGregor?
Yeah.
That wasn't going to be in Australia.
Not an Australia one.
Well, they moved it. They moved.
Oh, Claudia.
Oh, yeah.
Drink.
Shot.
Yeah.
No,
Joanna
they-
and
yeah.
Valerie.
I think you have a thing for Claudia Gadelia. Maybe that's what
I
it is.
know,
She's
right?
consistently on your mind. I mean, maybe that's just what it is.
I
What's up
actually,
with that?
in that 2-shot that they had, I was actually kind of fancying the Venezuelan vixen there. I thought Juliana looked better in that one. That sounds bad. I apologize. No. I mean, yes, Juliana kind of caught my eye there, so... J10 716. I'll let you bullet.
Well, I mean, we're going to start off at the top anyways. We're already talking about it. Everybody's been talking about it. It's been almost 24 hours, maybe like around 20 hours. Twitter's been blowing up. Social media's been blowing up.
Non-stop.
But let's talk about the background a little bit first. Obviously, the biggest thing was everybody was thinking Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate. And when they announced Holly Holm, a lot of people were saying the same thing. We were saying the same thing, that it was too soon. Holly Holm needs a couple more fights under her belt.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, it looks like they got the right person. They got the right opponent in terms. But briefly, talk about the weigh-ins real quick in terms of it wasn't really interesting until the actual weigh-ins themselves. In terms of when they got face-to-face, we all saw and then...
Actually, yeah. Now that you mentioned that, not everybody was so excited about this card until that little interaction happened.
It was kind of calm and tame up until Friday, I guess you can say. Saturday, of course, their time.
I mean, and to, Ronda's, defense, you kind of have to sell it. If nobody's excited about it, you'll have to sell it.
I think there's a lot of things interesting leading up to this fight. Agreed with you guys. It was a Ronda fight that didn't really have the personal dynamic and the feud and the beef that successful Ronda fights typically have.
She tried to drag her in many times. Oh, yes. Every interview that she did, I felt as though she was just trying to pull her into
Was it Ronda
something.
playing cocky, you think?
Not necessarily, just saying, she's a nice girl, but she's going to get her ass kicked.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Talking
just
that trash.
trying to get a reaction from her, which she didn't get.
Yeah. But there were interesting headlines coming out leading up to that. And I always wonder, in retrospect, situations like this, a lot of people are equating other upsets in combat sports, and how does this reflect on that one? The one that comes to mind to me, and I will bring this all back to Bacon, many years ago, decades ago, Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas.
1990, 89 or 90.
That's exactly what I thought.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to read Newsweek magazine because I was a good little 7th grader or whatever it was.
You used to do your reading.
I used to do my reading, and there was a clip of Mike Tyson being knocked down in a sparring session or in training. And, it was one of these small articles in the very back of the magazine. I thought, that's kind of interesting. And I didn't know I didn't know anything about sport. I was not a boxing combat sports guy at that point. So I thought, geez, that's strange. This was leading up to the Buster Douglas fight, probably, a week or two before. Boom. What happens? He gets dropped, and of course in my head I'm kind of thinking, oh, that sounds like a fix. And the point is, here with this one leading up, you saw headlines about Edmond Taverdian's gym going under potentially and him having tax problems or whatever. Ronda's mom going public with her feelings about Edmond very vehemently against that. And you wonder if those are seeds being planted to possibly raise the stakes for Ronda. Or were they possibly fabricated in some way? Not the tax thing, because there's federal public records and stuff. But all that stuff does feed into, why are we reading this article? What's the point? Because Ronda's got a match coming up, It
the timing of everything.
The timing, plant seeds. And then, of course, as you said, the little scuffle at weigh-ins really was very, it was almost like the cherry on the cherry on top,
See, I look at it as Ronda she is very intimidating. Don't get me wrong. And I think in some ways it was more so Holm saying, listen, I'm not intimidated by you. and rightfully so. And don't get me wrong, I even texted our former co-host Daria, and we both said the same thing: is she's confident, but she's still gonna get her ass beat by Ronda Rousey. So fast forward to the fight, and what ends up happening?
A surprise, man!
Right?
Surprise.
I mean, Jesus Christ!
I was in my bed, kind of like ears dropping because my neighbor had the fight. I couldn't watch the fight, so that's how I was kind of like, and actually on Facebook, just trying to see what people are posting, and that's why I'm trying to like watch this fight. And I hear my neighbors are very big fans of Ronda, and they're like, "Oh, Ronda, no, get out!" I'm like, and I was like, 14 seconds. All right, bell rings, and it's the first round, and the first round. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's up.
Yeah.
And then when I hear no clapping, no nothing,
Right.
and I hear the end of the fight, I'm like, wow, it happened. You know?
No, I mean, a lot of people. Did you guys think that she would go undefeated for the rest of her career?
I thought there was a very good shot of it.
Me too.
I didn't.
And if she were to lose, were you expecting her to lose this way?
I don't know. I don't think that I really thought. I don't think I envisioned this. I'll be the first one to say I didn't see this thing coming
Don't get
at
me
all.
wrong. I thought she would go undefeated for the rest of her life.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, as you pointed out on social media, a lot of people saying, "Oh, I saw this thing coming. I knew it was going to happen. I told you. I told you. I told you." No, you didn't.
Right before I even text Jay, I was closing the restaurant, and the last customer that leaves the restaurant, he takes his food. He's like, "Oh, you gonna watch the fights?" "Oh yeah," because I have pictures of my fights on the wall, and he says, "Oh, you're a Ronda supporter." I said, "You know what? I don't like her. Not that she's great. She's very talented. She does what she does, but if Holly plays the outside game, the distance, uses her reach, she would win."
Yeah.
And guess what she did that night?
See, here's the thing too, and I agree with you, but a lot of people say that about her past opponents as well. And then little do we know, we see Ronda Rousey pretty much dominate in that field itself. So this goes to show that maybe Ronda does have holes in her game, or as Joe Rogan kept saying, or is Holly Holm that good? Because a lot of people, and you mentioned it to somebody before we came on, is not that many people know just how good Holly Holm is on the stand-up. This isn't just some random chick who does striking on the side.
But you know what? When fighters are getting ready for a fight, they analyze what they're heading into.
Yeah.
So they make a plan, and for Holly, she was able to execute that.
Yeah.
Brilliantly.
I think that is a big part of why we saw what we saw go down, is that
there was no lucky punch. There was no luck involved in this at all.
There was a strategy there. Holly fought a strategy in a fight that basically, I'm going to say, short-circuited Ronda. I won't go so far to say that Ronda couldn't see this strategy coming, or that they didn't plan, or they couldn't figure out the Holly Holm mystery. I don't believe that. I mean, they've been through the grinder too many times for that. But whatever it was, Ronda was not on her game that night, or maybe she was, and the emotions and the emotions, especially during the match, kind of sidetracked her, because she was wilder than we've typically seen her. She wasn't as in control. It's not the Ronda that we're used to seeing.
Definitely in that first round, we did see a side of Ronda that we never really seen before, as far as kind of chasing her, but not chasing her to like get her, chasing her kind of out of desperation. And that was just a side of Ronda that I've never seen before.
Because nobody ever dragged her out.
Which is shocking, because that Ronda is smart enough that she could easily short-circuit the other person mentally in the cage. I kept waiting for Ronda to just stay in the middle of the cage and say, "Bring it on. Come here. Come on, bitch. Right here, right now." Which is going to
beat Betch Kahoya, by the way.
Well, but that would throw me off guard, I'm sure, if I was in the cage. Maybe you're better qualified to speak.
She was able to take her to the ground, or kind of more, they just kind of went onto the ground, and it looks like we've seen Ronda do just some great things on the ground before. And it looked like Holly Holm was, like you said, well prepared in her strategy, strategized against that ground
Holly
game.
got out of that scenario in that respect, I was thinking Ronda's like a spider waiting for the fly to get in there. And once the fly is trapped, boom, you're not getting out of that spider web, right? Holly was able to escape the spider web.
But you know what? But because they trained for the wild hooks, they trained for that.
Yeah.
They trained to not get caught in the armbar situation. They trained for that. They trained for everything, all the throws, to avoid the throws.
Right, yep.
They trained for that.
That's what I noticed when they were in the first round. I saw clinch. Ronda had Holly clinched up against the cage.
Kind of very similar to how she got, I want to say, Alexis Davis, where she kind of threw her over.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to see that. And you had Holly Holm have the perfect solution as far as the positioning of her body.
That and also the hand fighting.
Yeah.
She didn't let Ronda have wrist control.
Wrist control, yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have control of your own wrist, you can't grab the other body to throw a person.
Exactly.
I mean, how much into the fight were you thinking, I don't think Ronda's going to win this fight?
After she dropped to that one knee.
In the second round?
Yeah. It was about 30 seconds after the match was called off.
Yeah.
I still figured Ronda would somehow come back. I was in such shock. It was fascinating to watch that first round. I really enjoyed it for the change of watching a Ronda Rousey match.
Yep. I mean, just for argument's sake, I mean, yes, it it didn't go to decision, but Holly Holm clearly won that first round as well.
Yeah,
there was no arguing Ronda Rousey won that round at all.
Right.
So definitely, if it would have gone a lot longer, who's to think that Holm would have just continually followed her game plan and just maybe dominated in every way.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, changing of the guard. Like, I mean, I'm still in shock. Ronda was that much of a spectacle to the point where you didn't watch her to fight. You watch her to what is she going to do next? What is she going to do that I have never seen before?
Yes.
So I still in shock, to be honest with you.
We've got a really hot chat room going on here. I want to big up a couple of people in here that are just going back and forth on their own. You guys are having your own. Oh, shit. Oh, Andre Gennaro, Richard Miller, of course, our guy Joe Boza, practically the fourth host here. Dark Marilyn, and I saw a couple other. Oh, Chris Robbins has just jumped in here. Joe says all three judges gave Holly the first round. Yeah, they're having their own show practically in the chat room, and God bless you guys for it.
I mean, shout out to the chat row. If you guys are watching us on YouTube or listening to on iTunes, thank you for watching, joining us, listening to us. If you want to talk about it at some point, we're not wrapping up yet, but if you want to talk about it sometime soon, ABTV UFC.
Yeah.
So feel free to hit us up on the Twitter.
Aaron Pritchard was in there earlier. Somebody named Purple 1405. I don't know what that means, but if you know George, go for it.
So speaking of the fight itself,
and a lesson of.
So speaking of the fight, just what we just talked about, a what now scenario. Now, a lot of people are saying what's next for Ronda Rousey, what's next for Holly Holm. As far as the challenger goes now, Ronda Rousey, I mean, obviously she's got a lot of priorities as well. She's not just an MMA fighter now, even though that is her number one. She's got movies, So as far as actually...
now it really depends.
Exactly.
How does the public take to somebody that's not a known defeater?
We can compare to her now to Gina Carano, and where a lot of this hype, kind of similar hype, obviously Ronda being totally above Gina's level, all due respect to Gina Carano, but we never saw Gina Carano after that first loss.
Right.
Do you think we're going to see Ronda Rousey back in the UFC?
Hell to the yes.
I think so.
As fast as possible, notwithstanding whatever the injuries and how she has to, healing up process, any movie obligations. Although, if the rumors are true about a broken jaw, that's going to be very difficult to deliver lines.
Now, do you guys think she'll be back with the same coach?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't have enough insight on that. She has been with Edmund for a very long time. Change is inevitable, I think, for everybody in life. But that's a winning streak that's gone on for a long while. Nobody is undefeated. Nobody doesn't lose at some point.
Now, if she does change camps, I mean, should she go to a camp that maybe emphasizes on the striking aspect of the MMA? Because a lot of people were saying that was maybe something that she was missing.
It's somebody that can deal with the drive of Ronda Rousey. I mean, whatever is, in these headlines that come up, you kind of realize that not everything is as it seems on the outside. And that's the case for all of us throughout life. Celebrities, sports stars, musicians, whatever you want to call it, politicians. So to that end, what I would say is true that I think we've seen of Ronda, and I believe that to be real, is her drive to win and her.
She's a hard worker, man. She's
yeah.
extremely hard worker.
Her motivation to succeed and outdo herself continually. I believe that is truly there. So that coach, who, if she ends up somewhere else, or if Edmund kind of retinkers their own coaching program, it's got to be a coach. Whoever works with her has got to be somebody that can handle that kind of drive.
Automatic rematch?
I think it's hard to say no. Yeah, based on her record. Never mind how big she is as a celebrity and what she's done for the sport, which cannot be understated. I think, or I'm sorry, cannot be overstated. Rather, she's done more for the sport in just a couple of years than so many people have done for 5-10 years on end.
Like, speaking of doing so much for the sport, do you see any other of the UFC champions being able to sell out that Australia show the way that she did yesterday?
No, I don't think that Conor could do it. I don't think that Jones could do it. Possibly the two of them together. Yeah. But otherwise,
I think you're gonna have to get all your bigger stars from UFC together in one card.
Yeah.
In order to be able to get that audience.
So yeah, she does have the drawing power no matter what.
Oh, definitely.
And I mean, I don't think her drawing power will lessen. Obviously, everybody's more interested in the comeback. We all know the true underdog story. Or now that maybe she is kind of an underdog now to Holly Holm.
Yeah.
But what's next for the champion? I mean, does she fight? Obviously when Ronda comes back, it might be UFC 200. Maybe it's an MSG show. Who knows? But what's next for Holly Holm?
Well, I think it all starts with figuring out.
Assuming Ronda doesn't come back enough time for Holly Holm's next title defense, who do you give that belt or the title shot to next?
If she doesn't come back in
time.
Like,
let's say Holly Holm doesn't fight Ronda next. Who does she fight next?
Man. Let's go to the rankings here. Let's talk about that.
I mean, I guess the easy answer would be Miesha Tate.
And then this stands, everything happened. Everything changed pretty much overnight, right? So what happens to Cyborg now?
Yeah.
Is she going to fight Holly?
Yeah. Cyborg, there was some headlines this week about Cyborg being officially...
In the UFC?
Yeah. Signed by the UFC, and what I thought she was supposed to fight around the end of this year.
I thought so too. I thought she had one more Invicta fight.
Right, she had an Invicta fight at 140 scheduled.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was planned, and now of course this wrinkle. I mean, a signing like this would of course change the course of everything else. So yeah, maybe you introduce Cyborg at 140. I think it. To me, it does take a bit of the luster off of the entire thing. But when Cyborg lost her Thai boxing fight, that took luster off of the pizzazz of Ronda versus Cyborg as well.
Yeah, but not to this level, though.
Not to this level, but I'm even going to go so far as to say, if we do see Ronda and Cyborg, they will still be able. It'll still be a huge match. To the public, I don't think the luster, I don't think the shine is off, or the bloom is off the rose. I think that'll still be a huge match. That will be something that the UFC can promote very effectively, and it'll be massive.
As far as upsets go, where would you guys rank this on terms of top MMA upsets of all time? Is
top.
It number one?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're gonna remember and say, where were you when Ronda got knocked out?
You can say I was listening closely to my neighbor's feed.
I was eavesdropping in my bed.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people compare it to Sarah St. Pierre from 7 years ago.
Right.
Even maybe Fedor versus Fabricio Verdum.
Right.
I think this tops them all.
Absolutely does,
Definitely.
and I'll tell you what makes it different is that this was such a mainstream event. Fedor and Verdum, I wrote down a couple of notes. Some of the big ones that come to mind for me, like, oh shit, I can't believe I just saw that. Couture versus Ortiz.
Yeah.
When he flipped him over and spanked him. Couture over Liddell. Gabriel Gonzaga over Mirko Cro Cop.
Yeah.
Weidman versus Silva. I mean, we were all stunned.
That was an upset.
Silva got knocked out, fell down. I still thought he was just working.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's going to get up, except the problem is Herb Dean has already called off the match, and Silva's going to say, no, I'm fine, just kidding.
Yeah.
Like, well, that might be too late, buddy. But that one was a shocker to me. And of course, Fedor versus Verdum. But those matches were within the universe of MMA. They weren't that far into the mainstream like Ronda and Holly. And on top of that, the odds were so much in favor of Ronda. It was...
not apparently to Facebook and everybody. Everybody called it.
Yeah, notwithstanding everybody that has an opinion, of course. But I did want to say, too, though, the thing that I think merits an immediate rematch is kind of the same thing that we're talking about here. Ronda, her legacy, the way that she has been so dominant. if you're going to give Anderson Silva an immediate rematch, then I think you
Ronda
do
Rousey
the
definitely
same thing
deserves it, especially with the way she's dominated her division as well. It's not like she's barely squeaking by a lot of these girls. She's dominating these divisions, and it's clearly, even though Holly Holm is clearly number one, there's Ronda Rousey, and then there's everyone else. So yes, I mean there really isn't any other person that can challenge Holly Holm. But like I said, who knows?
You know what's funny is we have in a lot of Ronda's fights, the trajectory of them. We kept hearing people say, well, she's got the armbar, she's got the grappling, but we really haven't seen her against a striker. Holly Holm matches, I've watched a lot of them. Many people, of course, you guys all have watched them on Access TV. She's been around for a while. We're going to start saying, well, we haven't really seen her against a grappler. I suppose we have with Ronda. There's that argument, you know. But now her as a champion, if she continues to fight, because we don't know, notwithstanding where Ronda stands with wanting an immediate rematch, if she goes on to fight Misha or Kat, Amanda Nunes, I'm just looking at the list here. Sarah Kaufman for that, or Sarah McMahon even for that matter.
It creates all these new matchups for the title. So.
Yeah. Now the downside is, unfortunately, that's going to be difficult to market these matches. Even I have a tough time keeping everybody straight. I know these fighters, like, you know, pick them out of a lineup, most of them, you know. But Holly Holm, I mean,
she's a star now.
Well, I don't think so.
I mean, Ronda's always going to be a star.
No, but you have the potential.
Yeah, always going to be a star, and yeah, it does create a new star. You never forget the person, even though Buster Douglas pretty much did nothing after Mike Tyson. You always remember.
He knows.
But he's Buster
everybody
Douglas.
knows Buster Douglas.
But everybody knows Buster Douglas.
Hey, I want to give a big shout too. Actually, we got a few more people jumping in here. Aaron Pritchard is talking there. Dan Bro. There was one other person. This is a funny name. I'm gonna butcher it. Dario Bernardo, who is in the chat room.
What up, Dario Bernardo?
Dario Bernardo, and of course Dodgy Claire as well is joining us. Happy birthday, Rick! By the way, Dario's dead.
Well, happy birthday, Rick!
Right?
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! But yeah,
from the guy that took, or the girl that took your daughter's spot.
As mentioned, this was not the only fight of the night. Or even it was officially fight of the night.
Yes.
But it wasn't the only fight of the night.
True.
See what I did there?
I see. Well done.
Actually, you know, I did see, before we wrap up on the Rousey Holm thing, I did see a funny line that I never even heard of before until yesterday. It says, "Defeat caused defeat."
Oh yeah.
You see what it?
Oh.
Break it.
Yeah, you like that?
The feet, the
I like
footwork.
that.
Defeat.
Holly's footwork,
defeat.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
thought that was kind of clever. But the co-main event, another title fight in the women's division of the strawweight division, the strawweight weight class. Joanna.
Just kidding.
Joanna Jacek against.
Now I'm drinking for that one, guys.
ATT's good old Valerie Letourneau, and in my opinion as well, a much highly anticipated fight. Of course, Joanna, the champion, just came off a complete destruction of Jessica Penne.
Yeah.
Destruction. Of Jessica Penne, and of course Letourneau looking great against Marina Moroz. No, obviously a lot of people, this is where you can say the name now, a lot of people were thinking it was going to be Claudia Gadelha, who barely lost a split decision against Joanna.
I still think she won that match.
I agree as well. But
before Joanna won the title, of course.
Yeah, of course. But, you know, 5-round, nice unanimous decision. I thought it was a great fight as well. Joanna's so precise in her striking. I know I said that last time, but I mean, it's no joke. She is like top level striker. Go ahead.
Very much so. Yes.
Yes. You're right, George.
Yes.
She's somebody that, in the way that I'm saying Holly Holm is, you maybe have the tools to make her a star. I'm kind of putting on my promoter's cap here. You really have that with JJ, with Joanna and Jacek, and she has taken the ball and run with it.
And she's very likable. You know, she's interviews, anything like that. She's very sweet, and just the, I guess the accent gets you.
Yeah, the accent's not bad.
But
the eyes. Maybe that's just me.
But the fight itself, I thought it was very good stand up. Valerie stood up, man.
Yeah, kudos to Letourneau, because I mean, you would think that if it's going to be a 5-round stand-up fight, you would think that Letourneau would have no chance.
Considering what she did to Esparza and you know Penne, she stood her ground, man.
Yeah.
And kudos to her, man. She definitely put up a fight.
Yeah, Yen Jacek, she said in the post-fight interview that sometimes you're not going to win every match by a total destruction. She's not necessarily the Terminator. She certainly can achieve that level at certain points. But maybe it's more to say that so is Valerie. Valerie takes shots, keeps on coming. It was maybe by a hair in second viewing. I might have given JJ the second round, but initially I gave it to Valerie. But Valerie, even though she lost rounds pretty much straight through, was still in it. Yeah. She was never out of the game, and you would see these spurts where she would turn on with major flurries and just go straight forward and Terminator into Joanna, and that was very impressive.
Two things I picked up on this actual fight is leg kicks can either be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, obviously, best friend for Joanna, worst enemy for Letourneau. I mean, her thigh looked brutalized.
Yeah.
And I actually have a question for you guys. What do you think is better? Joanna's better at counter punching or just flat out striking you? Because she can do when you can do both. You have a lot of counter strikers that are just great counter strikers and wait for that hit, like guys like Machida. And you have great strikers, like Anderson Silva. But Joanna's really good at both of them. Like, do you think she's got one above better than the other, or just like equally as good? Because that's what I noticed in this fight, that she's good at both.
Probably her offense. Her offensive stuck out to me more so than her counter striking last night.
What I like about Joanna is that she has volume. Volume means that your fight is going to be your fight.
Accurate volume.
Yes.
Punches and bunches.
But you can also have just bullshit punches.
Yeah, she does it a lot too.
Bullshit punches, and that's what I like about her.
Setting up punches.
Yes, exactly. So you have bullshit punches, then you're coming up with either the power punch but you're looking for that. And that's what I like about her. And her timing as well. The leg kick she was using for against Valerie, she was taking away her her power just with that leg.
Yeah.
And cool.
Well, we've seen that in other matches as well. I'm hard pressed to remember one specific example of where the leg kicks, lit up a thigh. Oh yeah, okay, there you go.
Uriah.
I mean, it happens so often.
I keep forgetting the guy that Nate Marquardt fought on the last episode of Strikeforce.
Let's go to the internet here.
That fight, Marquardt's leg was probably the worst I've ever seen somebody's thigh.
Yeah.
It was like, I have no idea how this guy has any leg. But I think you mentioned a Faber not too long ago.
Yes. He got carried out.
Against
he got
Frankie
carried
Edgar?
out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Wait, was it the leg kicks were...
Aldo.
No, Aldo.
Oh, yeah. Well, we saw a couple fights not too long ago where it just looks like...
And Frankie.
No, who was it? It was...
Tarek Safady?
Yeah, Tarek Safady.
Nate Marquardt and
Eddie Alvarez against... who did he just fight?
Gil Melendez?
No, it was the one that he lost. I think it was Cerrone. Where Eddie Alvarez can barely stand on that one leg.
Right.
But yeah, those leg kicks are just brutal. Again, going back to maybe now you can not drink for saying her name, but is Claudia Gadelha the next person? You would think so.
Yeah.
But obviously we've seen with, obviously Holly Holm in him making the right choice as far as who's next. Maybe we're going to see this wild card out of nowhere. Next month we see Paige Van Sant versus Rose Namajunas.
Yes,
right. But they want
I'm
to
so
cook
excited for that, man.
But you would think that it'd be the same for Holly Holm. Mm-hmm. You would think that Holly Holm would have had a few more fights, but if one of them looked
because
insanely impressive,
Joanna hasn't gone through. Ronda had cleaned out most of the top 10. Holly was one of the only ones.
So you're saying Joanna's still got some fights at the top of the card to
I'm
face.
Looking right now. Claudia's actually ranked number 1, right below Joanna. That makes sense to me. Rose number 3, she's not had a fight. Jessica at number 4 did. Then after Jessica at 4, you've got Tisha Torres, then Paige Van Sant, then Randa. She just fought number 8, Valerie Letourneau. So above that, you've got still a few more. 2 that are about to fight. Claudia, I'm not sure if Claudia's got. I don't think she's got one.
No, you say definitely give it to Claudia.
Yes.
Like no wild cards, no nothing.
You've got a history there that can justify it. In terms of the numbers and the split decision, she's ranked number 1. Yeah, I say you go for it.
That's true.
Richard Miller concurring. Faber got chopped up, and Genova's witness
is Dory Bernard saying anything in the chat?
Dario.
I haven't seen her in here. It doesn't look like she is joining anymore. But Wayne Spencer has kicked in here. Dan Bro is still around. They're talking about the women's fight, the Claudia and Valerie here. Yeah, Dan Bro, Genevieve's Witness, Dark Merlin is making some points. Aaron Pritchard's still in there too. Yep, good conversation, guys. Keep it going there.
Next fight we
I can't read it because then who's watching our show, right?
The next fight, obviously a much anticipated rematch from a fight from 2 years ago, and a lot of people consider this one of the best heavyweight fights of all time.
Yeah.
Mark Hunt versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva. A little mired in controversy of their last fight since Silva tested positive. So did it go from a draw to a no contest, or did it just stay into a draw?
Stayed as a draw, I believe. I was just looking at Bigfoot's record. It was gray. I don't think it was overturned because there was no reason to.
Yeah.
Because
Nobody won, nobody lost.
yeah.
I mean, just the fans were winners from that 5-round epic war. This one
And their respective doctors. Imagine the bills that the MRI imaging company there, huh?
that one was the main event, so it went 5 rounds. How that fight went 5 rounds, no idea.
Right.
This one, I thought it would go a lot shorter, obviously because it was a 3-rounder, but even so, it went 1 round.
Yeah.
And any surprises in that? Mark Hunt knocking out Antonio Silva?
Not for me, no. I was looking at Silva's record. He's 1-4-1
in the UFC.
His past 5. I'm sorry, his past 6 fights. And so prior to that, 1-3-1.
The last person he beat was Overeem?
Yeah,
Wow,
Overeem.
that's a while ago.
And before that, Travis Brown. I think I'd like to see him retire. I think he's done with the sport. He didn't have anything like he had in the first match.
Definitely not the same guy who beat Fedor back in the day.
He's just certainly not. Yeah, not the guy that beat Overeem as well, for that matter. I want to see him have a good life, quite frankly. He's given us more than plenty fun matches to watch, and that first draw, should be the one that he kind of hangs his hat on.
Yeah.
Well, that and beating Fedor too.
Yeah.
Not a bad accomplishment.
I mean, here's a guy who definitely has beat your fair share of top heavyweights, but as we've seen him lose to Cain Velasquez and obviously a few others, he's definitely not going to be in title contention ever, really.
Correct.
And if you really, I mean, again, I'm sure a lot of people do it for fun or do it for a living, but if you're not going to be one of the top guys, then you're just going to do it for fun.
You don't want to be one of those guys.
But can you do it for fun and still stay healthy? And probably not. If you're Antonio Silva,
especially with people, I mean, heavyweights throw
exactly, especially
so
being a
much
heavyweight.
power.
Yeah.
So
He's, it was the match with Hunt last night, of course, lost to Frank Mir, KO in the first round. Prior to that, in 2014, was a KO from punches to loss to Andre Arlovsky, first round. Then there was the draw with Hunt, and then there was, going backwards, of course, first round loss to Cain. Yeah, his Overeem win was in 2013.
And that was a fight that
KO
Overeem looked like he was going to win. It just Overeem got a little cocky.
That Overeem
So
was
it wasn't even like
yeah.
Antonio Silva being flat out the best fighter. It was just Overeem dropping his hands, being cocky,
Yeah. Bigfoot pulled out deep, kind of he reached in there in the third and just finished Overeem in that one. So I think the time has passed for him. I'd like to see him, wrap up shop. And then, quite frankly, hey, if you're watching this, Bigfoot, by the way, that new head of hair of yours looking really good. You look much younger. Mentally, I know you're not younger, man. You've had some wars.
he had a little gray coming out of his
Maybe a little
sideburns.
bit gray, but I think having hair brought him back, at least socially, visually. Took him back to his 30s.
I mean, speaking of
he's in his 30s. Oops. Sorry.
Speaking of guys that are won't be in the top contention, does Mark Hunt belong in the top? I mean, he's beaten guys, but obviously he's a guy who, when you give him the top guy, whether it's Junior Dos Santos or Verdum, he's obviously maybe not at that level. Where does Mark Hunt go from here?
Mark Hunt, I would keep in. I would keep in Oceania. I think star there. I think you always book him for those shows,
especially since one of his close friends, so Paleli, had just retired as well. So he's a guy that maybe it's only him now. He's the only guy from that Australia, New Zealand kind of.
Mr. Hunt is number 8 right now in the mix between
a nice 11-10 record and 1.
Yeah. I think he's one of those guys right now. He's kind of where Bigfoot previously was, where you do it
But Hunt's
You
not
do it
getting
because you want to.
Hunt's not really getting beaten as bad as and Silva's just flat out getting beaten up in every fight. Hunt's obviously I'm sure he still looks fine. He didn't get damaged at all really last fight.
Right.
Yeah.
He did
He's
mention
probably got
in
a
the
few more
post-fight
fights.
interview, him and Coach Mike Swick think that there's one more run in him possibly.
I hope so. I think he's so exciting. I mean, he's a guy that
He
I
looked
don't
good last
blink.
night. Actually,
Yeah.
he looked very healthy last night, and I was
He looked thinner, right?
throughout
He said
the
he's-
camp. I was watching videos of him in Phuket, Thailand, with AKA training and stuff like that. So it was nice to see him very healthy and actually just fighting a good fight. So.
Yeah. Now, you trained there as you've been to
Not
Thailand.
AKA.
Okay.
I trained at
Was
Tiger
it
Muay Thai.
Tiger? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
What was that like there?
Awesome.
Training in Thailand?
I wish I could live there.
You really?
Yes, definitely.
Put it in perspective for us compared to a fight camp here.
To a fight camp here? Well,
Yeah.
there I only had to worry about training.
Okay.
Here I have to work.
That's one thing. Life doesn't exist in Thailand,
Exactly.
apparently. Not real life.
But you know what? I think I am thinking of putting a taco stand in Thailand
Oh, yeah.
and offering tacos to the Thai people, so I could just train and just live there.
Thai tacos.
I like it.
There's something to that, all
You
right.
can always make tacos here too, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, we'll
For
appreciate
us.
the tacos here.
Yeah, but Thailand's different.
She's got a little swoon in her eye there.
I've heard a lot of people say Thailand's different from both, males and females.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't go over there for that. By the way.
Guys, that's
I
all
gotta train.
George.
I gotta
That's
train.
George. I'm putting that on him.
No, but you know what? I would love to go and live there for, say, about a year. Train and fight there.
Not a bad game plan.
You take a Thai boxing match, or you take a MMA match over there.
No, just Thai.
Just train.
Yeah.
Just train. Train and fight. Train and fight. Train and fight.
We saw
So-
another middleweight. Oh, were you going to say something? We're going to talk
Oh,
about
you know
middleweight
what?
clash.
Actually, speaking of Thai, correct me if I'm wrong, but our guy, former guest here, your semi-training partner, James the Moonwalker
Thai?
Mustansri. Is he Thai or Vietnamese? Correct me.
Korean.
Huh?
Korean.
No. Well, part Korean, but also
Oh, yeah.
Vietnamese or Thai. I apologize, James, for not having it exactly
Hi,
on the money.
James.
Yeah, right. But segue into that. I mean, the undercard delivered some great matches as well, including that fantastic spinning back kick combination from the Moonwalker himself.
Yes.
On the Fight Pass undercard over Anton Zafir, first round, 456.
That was awesome to see.
That-
Awesome to see.
Yeah, that
Former
was
AfterBuzz
a sweet
TV, yes.
combo that I don't think we're ever going to see again, quite frankly.
Shout out to any former AfterBuzz, guest
Yeah.
on the UFC show.
I don't think there were any others, but running down real quickly, the prelims card that ran on Fox Sports was nice and fast and fun. Jake Matthews over Akbar Areola, second round doctor stoppage. Jake's a guy that last year, almost a year ago, man, it's going to be soon for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Wrap up of 2015 and into 2016. I thought that Jake was going to have his year this year, and he's done quite well. He did have one defeat, but that's a young kid on the rise. I think people should watch out for him.
Kyle Noak, too, he looked pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, him and Holly Holm both got performance of the night, rightfully so. They both looked, I mean, obviously Kyle Noak, Holly Holm looked obviously impressive, but Kyle Noak equally as impressive as well.
Yeah. Noak with his a body kick that just dropped Peter Sabata, just like, you're done, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, the snap and the agony that Peter Sabata was in when he dropped. And then John Viante, I hope I pronounced that name right, training partner with Chris Weidman over, he fought
Anthony
Parash, the Hippo, and had a nice first round knockout there as well at 256. One punch overhand right. He was throwing that the whole time, and it was a solid shot that right was landing very well for him. Yeah. Holly's left and John Viante's overhand right there. Big time.
What did you guys think of the middleweight clash between Uriah Hall and Robert Whittaker? A little frustrating on my part to watch Uriah Hall, who just came off probably the most impressive victory of his career against Mousasi. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing, I mean, obviously you think if he can do that to Mousasi, he's probably going to have an easy hand with Robert Whittaker. Obviously the complete opposite we saw.
I didn't think it was going to be an easy hand per se, but I did expect for another Uriah Hall to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't seem like he could get off, that he could kind of get his pace going for that match, which surprised me a bit.
There were little glimpses here and there, but
Yeah.
he never truly just let go.
We saw a little bit of that in the third round, but it obviously, as many fights, and obviously, I'm not a fighter. Maybe you can put your opinion on this, but we saw that in the third round, and a lot of us are thinking, dude, where was this in the first 2 rounds?
Exactly.
Is it mind games? Like, sometimes are people just afraid to pull the trigger?
You know what? Sometimes you have to adjust. Sometimes maybe you find an opponent very kind of off, and you're just trying to figure out a little bit. He was maybe putting too much pressure on him. That's what I seen. He was closing the distance. He was putting pressure on Holm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what kind of threw him off a little bit.
Yeah.
But once you kind of get somebody's timeage and you start, it's a little too late.
Yeah.
So
it really, I've said this before, and I'll maintain it. Uriah Hall is one of the most fascinating case studies for the mental aspect of MMA. I think he is more sensitive to mental influence than just about any fighter that I can think of. You really don't know what Uriah Hall is going to show up, and the thing is that they can be so vastly different, mostly because of his mental state. The guy trains with legit people. It's not like his body goes up and down. He stays in shape. I presume that he's living clean and maintains his lifestyle. He's very explosive too.
He's such a great athlete. And just to see those flying knees and the stuff that he was landing, I was very impressed.
Yeah, when he wants to show you that stuff, and that's the thing. Sometimes, I'm guessing. Obviously, we've only spoken with him once. I don't know the guy, but it seems like when the wall is really high and you've got to climb it, when it's a huge impediment in front of you, and you've got to overcome that with a ferocity, he steps up to the plate and he can do it. And he's certainly got the athleticism and the technical skills to do it. But when it's not necessarily there, when it's less expectation to overcome, then it's almost like he doesn't show up. But it's not like he's not taking it seriously. You can tell. I feel like when you watch him, you can tell that he is trying to figure out Robert. In this case, he just couldn't turn on the switch, and I think it's a bit elemental to what Dana had been frustrated with Uriah about in terms of his mental state. And he's not a fighter. He is a fighter. He's not a fighter. I don't know that he necessarily wants this.
This is a very emotional game, man.
Yeah.
Very emotional.
Well, that's
it takes
the
a lot from
Do
you.
you kind of agree with Nick Diaz in terms of you gotta hate it to love it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, because you make so much sacrifices. Your body goes through everything through fight camps. There's a lot of stuff that you want to do. You got to sacrifice that time, and if you're a fighter and that's what's making you money, there's a lot of work that you have to put in.
And a lot of pressure, because if that's your bread and butter.
A lot of pressure.
Should be interesting to see where Robert Whittaker goes, who won his 4th fight in a row. So who knows where he maybe rises up. Maybe, I think is he ranked in the middleweight?
Well, I saw Uriah was ranked number 10. So
Robert Whittaker
we may see
knocking on that door.
Yeah, we may see him jump up there. Take a look and see if he's actually ranked. I don't believe he
was supposed to fight Michael Bisping, Uriah Hall. I think this is his 5th fight.
Was Uriah supposed to? No, I think Uriah
was supposed to be Whittaker versus Bisping.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Then Uriah was the replacement.
I'm sorry, middleweight. No, Whittaker is number 14.
Okay, so it's probably going to go up to at least number 10. Rightfully so. I mean, the guy's being Brad Tavares. Again, Uriah Hill, who just came off the most impressive victory of his career. We'll see. I like Robert Whittaker overall, winner of Tough Smashes. So we'll see where he goes from here. To round out the pay-per-view card, we saw a heavyweight clash. Stefan Struve, Skyscraper Struve. Stefan Skies, I can't even say it. Stefan, you guys try. I don't know.
There's your drink, guys.
Skyscraper Struve.
Nailed it. Show
Against Jared Rosholt. I guess I can say a lot of things that we've been saying about Stefan Struve, or about Uriah Hall, and maybe Ronda Rousey and Stefan Struve. I thought Struve was going to wipe the floor with Jared Rosholt. Complete opposite. total. I mean, obviously it was a classic case of wrestler striker.
Yeah.
And just flat out Rochat being the much better wrestler than Struve striking.
I was afraid that we were going to see the takedowns and the coverage. And to be fair, Rochat's ground and pound wasn't bad by any means. You know, it was pretty competitive. And Struve was working hard from his back, throwing a lot of up kicks. But yeah, I was disappointed that we didn't see more striking from Struve. I think that would have been, whether he would have gone to the ground anyway or not, it would have been a lot more fun to see Struve use his length.
Well, I mean, he's a Muay Thai fighter, right? He's a Muay Thai fighter. I didn't really see any kicks. I didn't really see any striking. He was getting taken down pretty easy.
Right.
As big as he is, it was just a little disappointing to see.
He couldn't. It seemed like he wasn't using his wasn't using his length to keep the distance.
It looked like me and Stephanie in there.
You and Stephanie Toad from U of MMA.
Yes.
Fight Night 2 or 3?
I don't remember.
2013, I believe. Guys, go look it up on YouTube. That's your homework. That is not on Fight Pass. But yeah, that was a bit of a disappointing match. Struve, I'm not sure what happens with him. Take a look at his records. I'd seen somebody speak about him about.
Well, since he's come back, I believe he's 1-2, losing to Overeem, beating Nogueira, and then obviously losing last night to Jared Rochat. I mean, yeah, he's a guy who maybe not going to be in the top contention for a title, but he's still got a lot to offer. He's still relatively young in the MMA game, not just MMA game, but in age as well. Yeah. So who knows where we go from here.
Struve beat Big Nog in 2015, and then in August that is. 1-3 in his last 4. Losses to Alistair Overeem and Mark Hunt prior to that. It's unfortunate, but he had that medical condition with his heart, and that may have changed a lot with his affecting his cardio and his training and things. So
I agree. Yeah. Just to round out the rest of the UFC 190 card, we saw on the prelims, Fox Sport 1's prelims, Danny Martinez defeat Richie Vaculik.
Vasulik.
Dan Kelly beating Steve Montgomery, unanimous decision. Richard Walsh beating Steve Kennedy, unanimous decision. Of course, our boy James Moonwalker, Moontasri beating Anton Zafir. And shout out to Brian from Family Guy. Ben Nguyen?
Ben Nguyen.
You've obviously never seen that episode of Family Guy.
Ben 10.
Ben Nguyen, versus Ryan Benoit. Or is it Benoit?
Benoit.
Okay.
That one is Benoit.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It's a little bit different.
Ben 10 had a great finish as well. Rear naked choke. He's a fun guy. I think we're going to see more.
He's a mushroom?
Excuse me?
He's a mushroom?
No, I think
he's a fun guy.
And this is what you're going to get with George hosting, guys.
You like it, huh?
I think 2016 could be Ben 10's year. I think he'll be one of the guys on the rise next year.
So real quick, we're going to do our own. Who was your, probably going to be the same, who was your fight or performance of the night, fighter of the night?
Oh, yeah.
Officially, it was Holly Holm, but I mean, what about AfterBuzz TV's performance of the night?
Holly
Holm.
Yeah, Holly. I mean, if we're going apples to apples, it's definitely Holly. Moonwalker had a fantastic finish. Kyle, no doubt. John Viante, fantastic. Those are really fun guys.
Just the level of Holly
It is
Holmes.
worth it. The prelims will play again on Fox Sports 1, maybe Fox Sports 2. Go out of your way. Find the prelims. Watch them. It won't take you that much time. The finishes are fantastic.
Holly Holm, $100,000 richer for performance of the night and fight of the night. And AfterBuzz TV's performance of the night. So come on by. We'll get you a can of Coke and some free popcorn.
and some tacos.
Oh, tacos. Some Thai tacos. Apparently.
And Thai tacos.
There we go. But we're about to wrap
up. I
up.
recipe for that.
We'll definitely be back to cover UFC 194. That's what I'm looking forward to as well. The double main event, double championship main event. Obviously, Aldo McGregor is the big one that we've been waiting more than probably like a year to see.
You could argue Weidman and Rockhold is bigger.
Yeah, Weidman and Rockhold
because they're heavier guys.
Yeah.
Boom!
Oh, I see what you did there. But I guess let's do maybe a quick predictions. Who do you have, Rockhold or Weidman?
That's tough.
That is a tough one.
I really don't know.
I hope it's an upset.
What do you define as an upset?
I don't like Weidman.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
You're going for Rockhold then. You're predicting Rockhold?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Weidman. He impressed me in his last fight, but unless he completely dominates Rockhold, like I've never really been impressed by Weidman. I think
Me neither. I'm right
Bill
with
must
you.
be smoking.
I'm right with you.
I think both his wins against Silva was more Silva losing as opposed to Weidman. I know we've talked about this before. I think it was more Silva losing than
It
Weidman
was
winning.
just luck.
Look, no.
It was just certain things
I think
coming
it's-
together at the same time that
Man.
happily broke.
It's one of those things where if
shin.
this hadn't happened,
Well, in the cage, when the bell rings from bell to bell or bell to horn, you really got to be ready and you got to know that you're in there and
Yeah, but-
shit's going down.
I mean, I see what you're saying.
Injuries.
I think a lot of times it's if X doesn't happen, then Y doesn't happen. And if Silva didn't do what he did or break his leg, then
Right.
you never know. As opposed to obviously bring it back to Macon, there was no lucky punch yesterday. Holly Holm was
Right.
the definite winner. There was no accident so that's what kind of always disappointed me about Chris Weidman's victories is that I want to see him dominate. I want to see him
Disagree,
defeat.
homeboy.
But I will say this:
He didn't dominate
completely-
Machida?
He completely dominated Vitor Belfort, and I give him props for that.
and Machida.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that we would have seen much closer to. We would have seen at least a competitive match in the first Silva
I agree.
Weidman if he hadn't been screwing
And the
around
second one,
there.
too.
Yeah.
And
the,
if he
the
didn't
injury
break his
thing,
leg.
the injury thing is absolutely fair. He finished him there because of simple technique. So I really like that one. Aldo McGregor, not to dwell on too much on analysis, but it's going to be a lot closer, I think, than if it had gone down in July. I was picking Aldo. I'm sorry, yeah, Aldo in July, but I think it's going to be a lot closer here.
All right, who do you have? Aldo McGregor.
I have to go with my boy Aldo.
Really?
Yeah, man.
You think the hype train ends? You think the last stop is UFC 194?
Oh, certainly not the last stop, no. But
Choo McGregor?
yeah, we could see
I hope so.
Really?
take him down a few notches, possibly.
You think? I mean, it's.
I don't
probably-
think it'll take his mouth down a few notches.
I know who Dana wants to win, but
Yes.
I guess we're gonna see how that plays out.
Yeah.
So we'll
Right quick before we wrap up here, let's give it up to. Geez, this chat room is going
cheese?
Nacho
going crazy.
cheese.
Yeah, nacho cheese. It's our cheese. Joe Boza, Richard Miller, they went at it. Purple 1405. Dan Bro, of course. Aaron Pritchard was in there for quite a bit. Of course, Dodgy Claire Bowie out in the UK, and that one funny one, Duracell Bernadine, whatever her name is. Anyway, yeah. I butchered that name. So let's all drink to that one, huh?
But everybody wants to know where they can find you. Maybe, like I said, hashtag ABTVUFC to keep this going. Of course, we have so much to say about last night's UFC 193. Records were broken. History was made.
You can find me next week, and him as well, and her as well, at Club Nokia, downtown LA. 5 p.m. is the first fight. Doors 4:30. Tickets available at clubnokia.com.
You should really know this stuff.
And you know what?
Yes.
Last thing. Everybody loses. And I believe right now the social media is going crazy against Ronda. And, just have a little respect sometimes.
Yes, indeed. She's done a lot for the sport. You know it.
I agree. And you can follow me at G Hermoza on Twitter and on Instagram as we wrap up this awesome show. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Thank you for listening to us on iTunes. And we'll see you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.